Hi, everybody. Welcome to the new normal. I'm your host, Lisa Davis, aka Litecoin Lisa. Today, I'm really excited to share with you guys a friend of mine that I've met through this wild, wacky cryptoverse. A great guy. I am for I am. If you're following him on Twitter, you will have seen some of his other work, such as his white paper on the umbrella promise, which we'll be discussing some of today. I asked him what his thoughts were on meritocracy. And he wrote a really amazing post over on the Mighty Layer on Den Social, Den.social. I advise you guys to check it out. We're going to talk about it and some other things. So I'll be right back with I Am for I Am right after this. Give us a like and share the video. Welcome to the new normal. I Am for I Am. It's so good to have you.
Likewise, fun to be here.
Yeah.
Oh, Sean.
Sean made it just in time. He popped in.
Always do.
And we color coordinated again, Sean, today.
Oh, should have called me, text me, whatever. I would have worn green.
I didn't know it was a thing. Apparently, you have to be like, have the mental telepathy thing going. I don't know. Next time, I'm sure we will be. I was just saying before we got started that I had, we've had, or I've discussed the umbrella promise with I Am for I Am before. And I Am, can you give us a little bit of a summary of that just for people that maybe haven't heard of it and where they could go read the white paper for themselves?
No, I'm not going to do that.
Just a little bit.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah. Really, where the concept came from is I was thinking about how crypto eliminates the middleman, or the middle person, the third party. And so that was the idea behind it, was how do we eliminate the third party that's between us and our representative? And how could we do it with blockchain, or, and that's kind of where it came from. It birthed out of that thinking, that line of thinking. And so really what it is the candidate running for office promises with their sacred honor that they will only vote per our vote. And what that is think of it kind of like maybe a bad example is a homeowners association. Maybe a better example might be a voting club. So imagine if you are a registered voter and within your district, you logged in as a registered voter and voted on different legislation. And then your umbrella promise candidate would obviously, when elected, would pledge with their sacred honor to only vote per your vote or this voting group. And that's how it kind of came about. So then there's no money, there's no lobbyists knocking on their door, there's no party politics that's pushing them to vote either way. And we would be able to swiftly pull them out of office, as well as hold them civilly liable if they voted against the voting group.
So I'm sorry to interrupt. There is what I liked about one of the things, many things I like about this, but what I also liked about it is that there are consequences for not following. There's transparency, there's decentralization, but then there is a mechanism of enforcement or consequences, because so many times now we see, people get voted into office or selected. I don't even know how it happens anymore, but magically they're in power, saying they're going to uphold the people's will that supposedly put them in that position, but then they don't, and there are no consequences. The day we just wake up and it's Groundhog Day again,
Right.
And so I really like that mechanism.
Yeah, and essentially it's like a recall, right? So the group would immediately jump into recall mode and recall that politician and have another vote and another put in their place. But a big, gratitude to you, Sean. Thank you very much. When I had proposed this to the World Blockchain Roundtable, you had mentioned, well, they could just switch and vote and get a bunch of cash and walk away, and that added that extra element of a civil penalty and them actually signing a contract stating that they would vote only per our vote. And if they didn't, they would be recalled and as well as a civil penalty in the millions of dollars. And that would hold them accountable, just like you were saying, Lisa. But really, Sean, that idea of being able to hold them accountable with civil penalties in a contract was developed out of your comments on the World Blockchain Roundtable.
Cool.
I love it.
So it's just barely getting, it's going to be a grassroots movement, but I like it. And I haven't found anybody that really fought against it or hasn't liked the concept. So now it's just, I'm going to start pushing it. Now, a lot of family members, to be honest with you, told me don't do it because you're attacking the money flow to the politicians. And it's party neutral. It has absolutely nothing to do with the party. So if someone's in a Democratic district and wanted to do this in a Democratic district, that's fine, or as a Republican or Libertarian, Independent, whatever. It's very party neutral. So it's
totally out the window now. Everyone says Democratic. No one says Democrat anymore.
I know.
It's such a play on words.
Sean tried to save the world from it, but
a year or two ago,
agree.
It was still, but now it's just Democratic, and it's such a mind screw.
It's a perverse on the word, isn't it? So I don't like it either.
There was someone who called it in Congress, and he was like Democrat, and one of the Congress was like, the proper pronunciation is Democratic. And he's like, no, it's not. We're all Democratic. It's a democratic process. And then he's like, well, under this, for English rules, when you say this and this, you need to say Democratic. And it was a huge deal. They were like going off. And I mean, there's people who brought forth Congress that have done terrible things. And they didn't get as mad at them as they did when this guy refused to say Democratic.
Right.
But yeah.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you, Sean. I think it's kind of a theft of the word. Here you go, too. It's kind of like how progressivism was lost because it became a bad word, and it became then liberal. Of course, libertarians didn't like that because, hey, wait a minute, we're liberal. We're more open to new ideas and comments and things. And, it's interesting how our language and how we identify things changes over time.
We all used to be very liberal. Because liberals were kind of more libertarian.
Right.
And that's the whole thing what Bill Maher says. That's his whole thing is like, I didn't change. I'm a liberal. I'm for smaller government, people getting out of your business and, fairness for what is this totalitarian crap that liberals want now,
Right.
Theft of the word is a good term.
Don't you think that so much of that is that middle class mindset of not believing in our own power, standing on our own, but needing to be part of something bigger than ourselves, thinking that is, that's the only way to win is to be on the winning team or be a part of that larger group or whatever. And so to do that, we think we have to identify or set apart from the other groups, maybe even more than identify. Because I can think about, so many people having, or people in my own life having assumptions about my beliefs because of something they believe about a group or a word or a flag or whatever that they might see me identify with,
Right.
Yeah, it's something about me being a libertarian or anarchist, and my friend's like, "You're Antifa?" I'm like,
oh gosh. Now that's just lack of education.
Friend for 30
some
years.
of that is.
I'm Antifa. You just said you were. I was like, dude, you just don't understand, man.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, and we all have different journeys, right? Different life experiences that lead us down a certain path to come up with our political ideologies, and it's not just what we gained or grabbed from our families. Right? We've had different experiences that have kind of shaped our political philosophies, and that's how we arrive. And hopefully, we're always constantly have a grounding, a base, a foundation of principle and morals and ethics. And that's where the shift is. When your, let's call it, political party shifts one way or the other, and you still have that founding, that same steadfast basic principle.
Lisa said something
changes, right?
Like a few minutes ago. She said something about Democrat or Republican, or people want to belong to something bigger. We all used to. And we're Americans. We're Americans first.
Yes.
And what I think the change is that through school, first like higher learning, and now lower learning, they've taught kids that that's a bad thing.
Right.
The American, you shouldn't be proud of that. That's a sin almost. We've done so many terrible things. And if you don't teach just facts, man, just facts, when it comes to the world was a bad place. America did bad stuff, but it wasn't as close as what was going on in the rest of the world. And then the Republic, Mr. Olfang says Republic versus Empire. That's a big thing. We're being another wordplay, just like the Democratic is democracy versus republic. We're a democracy. We're pushing democracy to the world. When we're at war, we're bringing democracy. We are democracy. Always goes to a totalitarian tyranny model. Right. That's what it is. We are something like totally unique. It was an experiment. The republic, a constitutional, self-governing republic, and that's what, when people get angry about the electoral college or whatever, it's like you don't understand how perfect this all is. How this is like all this other shit's been done for hundreds or thousands of years, and it always goes a certain pattern. It always turns into this, and that's why what we have here in the United States, what we created, is so new and innovative and cool, and that's why it spread so fast. That's what, like RFK says, 1776 it was us, and then 20 years later there was like 6 different countries, and now there's like 190 different countries that have adopted what we started. But that's why they came to kind of change what we are, and belonging to something. If you don't have that, I'm an American first, you don't have anything to fall back on. All people have is I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat. So many of my friends who are not morons, I'll be like, hey man, left wing, right wing, same crooked bird. Everyone's a crook. Everyone's terrible. They're both in it for just money. Everyone's compromised, and they're like, yep, damn Democrats. I mean, I just said, it's everyone, both sides. And they're like, hell yeah, man, those Republicans are terrible.
Sure.
If they don't, it's odd to me. I don't understand the brainwashing.
Well, that persuasion element is everywhere, and it's and who controls those levers to be able to persuade the public? We've seen it with the Great Infection. We've seen it, countless times in our history, just within this country. And if there's anyone to take a look at is Mike Binns. He did that interview with Tucker, and that was kind of an eye-opening paradigm shift for me. I'm not going to go into it now, but we have come to question just about everything within our government. We, used to get our news from 3 sources, and we believed what we were told, right? And now we have the internet is providing all this information. It's kind of like the horses have run out of the barn. Now the government is trying to pull them back in to be able to control the narrative again. And as long as we're, alternative media like you folks put on and do, we're getting different truths, and we're learning along the way, right? We're supposed to be a constitutional republic. Some doubt that now, and then we change the words, and no, we're a Democrat. or democratic.
We're democracy. Save the democracy. I'm
Save
like,
the
what? We're not a democracy.
exactly. And we have to take back those words. And now I get a little bit more radical in that. Sometimes I'm a little bit more black pill thinking, all his hope is lost, and just electing Trump isn't going to fix it. It's going to take a lot more than that to drain the swamp. And yeah, that's a whole nother topic. But Lisa, you talked about meritocracy, and I'd heard that, and I wanted to fire off something real quick on Din Social, where
Yeah,
I wanted to put something together. Now I don't know what you were referring to when you mentioned it, but my ears perked up, and I wanted to.
I think it might be a good partnership with the umbrella promise, or somehow be a tool because we know the empire is dying, and I believe the US dollar along with it to be, rebuilt probably with a gold and silver backed form of digital currency, maybe by each state's treasury, but out of the treasury. I don't know how it's going to go down, but we all have so much to contribute. And really, money I just kept getting to this. Any form of money is a form of slavery, or creates an opportunity for slavery, because that is that third party. It's that can be manipulated outside of your control. And anytime you're putting your energy into something that you, like Sean was saying, that you cannot control, then that's a form of slavery. If it's something you can't push back on, well, when they're printing those dollars up, I didn't tell the Fed to do that. And that's my past energy stored in those dollars, now worth less because they sent another billion to Ukraine,
Right.
And so I thought about somehow being able to trade peer to peer using like a meritocracy kind of system. Maybe that partners with the umbrella promise. So I wanted to see what your thoughts were on it.
Okay. Well, first of all, I believe in rewarding good behavior, and that's kind of what Din Social does. It's incentivizing behavior on a social media stack. But I this whole participation ribbons and all that BS, no, thank you.
Right.
Now, so I do believe in merit, in merit based outcomes, and one of my famous quotes that I love is, "Show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome." So that's really what meritocracy is supposed to be. We, in a sense, have that. Think about it. We elect the House representative within our state, and then, wow, he or she's doing a great job. I think when they run for Senate in our state legislature, we should vote for them. And now they're running for U.S. Congress, and we look at their track record. We look at, wow, this person was in the armed services. This person did this, and that's their merit. That's their resume that they're building. So in a sense, we do that as a nation, and other nations, and it's been around for thousands of years. We elevate that by merit, that person up the ladder, up the ranks, or we're supposed to, correct? Where we go off and go wrong with meritocracy, in my belief, in my thoughts and philosophy of looking at it, is we put too much emphasis on that individual that we've built up based on their merits, and we may have promoted them above their ability, or we look at them and say, wow, this person is the wisest individual and the smartest in the group, and that's who we want to be our elected official. Now, as companies, we want to hire based off of merit, right? They went to the right school, they have the right experience, whatever the case might be, they've passed their exam as a fireman better than anyone else, and so we want that person for the job. That's based on merit. Those are the right things. But if we leave it to just that in our elected officials, here's where it goes wrong. It's almost like mob rule.
Elected servants.
Yes, we've pushed them higher than what they're capable of, but now we believe because they're in that office, oh, well, they're the wisest person for the job. So they're not voting how I would have voted on this particular bill or legislature, but well, they are the wisest person in the position. And so we've elevated them to a higher standard than maybe what they really are. And that's kind of where the trap is with meritocracy is we've given them such a role and such an important role, and we don't question their authority. We don't question their vote in the House or in the
That's
Senate.
something that one the first thing that really hit me years and years ago is that it doesn't matter who you vote. It doesn't matter who the candidate is for your party.
Mhm.
If you're a Democrat, it doesn't matter. It's not even like there's no point in it, because I used to say like I could respect someone who is in Congress and they vote for something that is terrible and would hurt my children and would hurt the environment. It would do damage to so many people, but it's good for their state. It's good for their people. If it's for coal, just no restrictions on coal, and we can burn the crap out of it, and people will die everywhere. But if you're in Pennsylvania, then you're a representative. I can respect you for voting for that. You know what I mean? Because that's
Right.
Well,
and when you look at like there's all these people in Congress. There's such a diverse amount of people from a diverse amount of states, and the person doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what club they belong to, if they have kids, if they cheat on their wife, and none of that matters anymore, because literally, no matter what the the, the vote is, it's everybody votes with their party.
Mhm.
It's just straight down the freaking line.
Mhm.
And if someone goes outside of their party, it's major news.
Right.
That is not how it should be.
Right.
It just isn't. I mean, if you
I
get
guess that goes to what I was thinking is where, like, I don't think the system that we have is so great, and that's where I was thinking, like, with the umbrella promise, I don't even know, like, you could be able to, I guess I was thinking about using meritocracy as, like, a form of validation or confirmation of somebody's knowledge or expertise in an area or contribution to the community, and then people being able to say like, "Oh, yeah, okay, I don't know anything about, uh, city infrastructure and waterways and whatever,
Mhm.
but look, this guy I can look up his umbrella promise meritocracy points, and so
Right.
I can, put my weight in with, his basket to choose, what's best for my city or whatever." And
Right.
so I was trying to think of it as like, if and I think that only works if it is peer reviewed, um, points or value, in that meritocracy system for
Mhm.
that
Mhm. Well,
type of expertise.
that's a great point, Lisa. And that we do that even in our personal lives. We look to individuals who have earned a status of reputation, earned expertise, and our family physician, as an example, or something like that, right? Um, However, when we look at um, the umbrella promise and how meritocracy, when I was writing this paper on meritocracy, or this posting, I was thinking of it as more as a philosophical, excuse me, a political theory,
Okay.
because there is a meritocracy, kind of like a monarchy, a constitutional republic, direct democracy, libertarianism. Meritocracy is actually a political theory,
Okay.
um, and we use it in our hiring practices at companies. Where the individual within a company might rise to the top or up the ladder, shall we say, based on their merit. So we do
Okay.
use that, and it's a good thing. It's the
Right.
right thing. We just have to be wary that we're not pushing the person up the ladder beyond their capabilities. Peter principle is sometimes how it's described. But more importantly, and going back to the very beginning of our conversation, when we were talking about left versus right, um, we have to also, in my opinion, we have to change our way of thinking and thinking of, how we often describe big government versus small government, right?
Mhm.
Well, we really should start thinking in terms of decentralized versus centralized. And what meritocracy happens with meritocracy is it leads to a more centralized control, just like mob rule might.
Because then there are deciders on who's
Right.
applying the points and all of that. Yeah, I see that.
Right. So if
Mhm.
we look at, and at the bottom of that posting, I posted a
Mhm.
link to one of my other things where I mentioned left or right. And if you go to the very bottom and click on that link with
Mhm.
LinkedIn, it will show you a posting that I talked about. We need to stop thinking in terms of left or right. We need to think in terms of centralized or decentralized. Anarchy would be a 10. That would be there is no centralization, right? Libertarian would be come down just a bit, maybe a 9. And where meritocracy, I think I rated meritocracy in my posting something like a 4. Um,
Let me
uh,
find it. Um,
yeah, or um,
Socialism and meritocracy. Oh, that's ironic.
there
Okay.
you go. So where a 1 would be all the way down to authoritarianism or theocracy. Think of the Pope. The Pope is based off of meritocracy. They are the most pious individual.
Mhm.
They've rose to the top through the cardinals. The cardinals have voted them in for all the whatever reasons. And it's theocracy, which is also essentially meritocracy, or
Interesting.
so that's where I was going as from a political um, theory. And now I'm no professor of philosophy, so it's just my understanding and theorizing how it would fall into the into the realm here. Um,
So do you see a solution? I know we're talked about the umbrella promise and getting the money out of it, but
mhm.
then also um, empowering individuals to engage in the process and be part of the decision making. Is that
Yes, um, you know the banksters, the Federal Reserve, they control the money, they control the levers of power, right? And Eisenhower warned us about the industrial, military complex, and it goes all the way, So those two forces are fighting against each other, and then you have the CIA and the Mossad and MI6 and all of these that are fighting with intelligence. Um, well, what if there was all of that kind of rolled up into one? And that's kind of what Mike Benz is talking about, controlling the narrative and controlling all of the levers of power, including the Federal Reserve and the central banking. So the solution, in my opinion, is more decentralization
Mhm,
and more decentral. We have to think in terms of um, how do we bring the power closer to home, right?
mhm,
And my father used to always say, we got to vote them out early. So if this person's running for school board, you got to vote for the right person for school board, because eventually they're going to be your congressperson. And so you got to vote them out early, right? So
mhm.
that's one way. Um, but we really have to vote with our wallets. Boycotts and boycotts work. We have to vote with our feet. People are doing that because
As
you
they're
know
moving and yeah,
you know
definitely.
and I'm not going to go down that road with the big CW, but these things are happening. They're happening right before us, and
Mhm,
that is parallel systems. We don't like Facebook, we don't like this, we don't like that. We'll
mhm,
build a parallel to it. I don't like Bud Light, so I'm going to buy this beer
mhm,
instead. That's a parallel system. That's a parallel buy. It's a boycott and a boycott. And voting with our wallets is powerful. It's more powerful than people think. And then announcing what you're buying. Your
mhm,
neighbors, your friends, your family will say, "Well, I'm not going to buy a Chevy. Yeah, okay, I'll buy a Ford because my grandfather bought a Ford," or something like that. I'm
mhm.
not picking one over the other, but as just as an example.
Yeah.
Um, And that's how we slowly move that pendulum. It's a pendulum going back and forth, right? Sean, you said it many times. It's the same bird. It's either right or left. It's a uniparty.
Yeah.
It's all about the money.
But when it comes to that, I think it's all part of a larger picture. And I think it's been very, very brilliant how the evil ones have done it. But they've changed people to where they don't vote with their wallet anymore. The Bud Light thing was an anomaly. It was huge. It was a big deal, but it didn't work. It was a protest, but it didn't do anything, because now the leaders of that, Kid Rock, Joe Rogan, other people, they've been paid off. They've kind of admitted. Kid Rock straight up admitted, and they're all very pro Bud Light. You got Shane Gillis out there who, to be fair, always drank it, but everyone's buying it. It's over. Nothing changed with it, and I thought that would be a big thing. But the protest hurt them in a way that with Doritos, when they just hired that influencer within 24 hours,
yes,
as soon as people started talking about it on YouTube, as soon as the word started getting around, they fired them. So I think they do know they can be hurt, but not destroyed, which is a big thing. And I've talked about this with Lisa. Like my parents, and definitely my grandparents, they would have killed a brand. It's like, hey, we're not going to do that anymore. Why? I want to do this. I like this. Let's get that. No, we're not getting that one because they did something. Jane Fonda did something with them. I remember stuff like that. And it's like, no, we're not going to do that. Now we're not going to do it this month, but they're dead. They had much more moral, much more direct moral compass than we do. There's so many things we complain about, but when there's a good Star Wars show, I'm paying for Disney. I pay for my Netflix. I didn't cancel my Netflix, but I did cancel the payment when that kids thing was on.
Right.
And then Texas said they were going to go after him for distributing CP, and they took it off. But I had stopped my rebill, but I'm like, well, I already paid for it for the month, so we'll keep it for the rest of the month. But I should have just killed it. I should have killed it right away.
Right. The market share, Bud Light is toast as far as they're never going to get that market share back. They're going to get some people back, but not all of them. And it sent a loud message. And it's things like that are going to continue to catch and catch and catch. And those who, like they said, go woke, go broke. Well, it's a fact. Why is that a fact? Because we're seeing it in the marketplace. So while some of these companies will bounce back a little bit, there are a lot of us that are still going to have drawn a line in the sand and said, no, I'm not crossing it. I'm not going to go buy Bud Light.
I think it's also good because people got to see and be empowered.
Right.
That they were like, oh, this is working. People showing videos where they're walking into, convenience stores and they're giving away Bud Light.
I think that may be the best thing about it, was that people saw. I think about when during the Great Infection, my daughter said, she was in a store or whatever and walking around, and of course not wearing a dirty face diaper, and this family walked in and they had theirs on, and then they saw her and she smiled at them and they were like, oh, it's okay. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, have a great day, whatever. And so as we see each other stand up, we can stand beside each other and say, no, we're going to take this country back. We're not going to put up with this. And I'll stand beside Sean, and I'll stand beside I am, and we'll say no. And so I think that was very empowering. Did maybe not as much damage as we, the real hardcore would have wanted for Bud Light, but that also would have hurt a lot of American jobs. And so we have to think about that too. But I think it did empower people to start thinking about voting with your wallet, thinking about your wallet.
I think they actually, because we have this mindset that companies are too big to fail. They're mega billionaires and they control everything. It's true, they control the government, they control everything, but we feel so
But we give
defeated.
them that control. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's what I think that reminded people that they need you. You know what I mean? They need you as a slave. You're a slave, but they need you.
Right.
And if it's that old cartoon where there's all the slaves building the pyramids. There's like one guy with a whip, and then one slave stands up and he whips it, and then like 10, and then like 100 of them stand up, and there's just one guy there with this little whip, and you're like,
Right.
oh, okay.
It's all about It's all about parallel systems. Theran said, I boycott silver. Good for him. Her. Yeah, that's what it's all about, right? It's building parallel systems and more people catching on to that and waking up. I know we're running out of time here, but I'll leave it kind of at this point. Imagine you're standing up or sitting on a hill and you're overlooking a town or a city, and the sun has gone down and people are starting to turn on their lights, and you see the neighborhoods just slowly start lighting up. People are turning on their porch lights. The cars are going down the street and they're starting to turn on their headlights. Well, that's exactly what's happening. People have now a new source of information. It's not just the three major networks. We are plugged into different sources of information. We're finding out more and more truths. We're actually becoming less trusting of government and less trusting of ABC to Fox to whatever. And that is that light that's being turned on in all these neighborhoods as you look on that hill and you look down, and there's a Bud Light that turns on. Now, some of them, maybe the Bud Lights are popping up and the city's all bright because everyone's boycotting Bud Light. And now you're starting to see some of those lights dim, but there's still going to be those lights that are still going to shine in the night sky saying, no, they crossed the line. I'm not going back. And that's how we're going to win. With boycotts, voting with our feet. And you know what? It might come in down to buying rope and pitchforks. Who knows? But building parallel systems and jumping on board of those parallel systems is going to defund and dethrone, depower these centralized systems that are not thinking what's best for us and our family. And I'll leave it at that.
I love it. I think that's a great way to wrap up over here. Sean, I don't know if you want to jump over and do second half on your channel, or you want to call it done. Okay. And I am. I'm sure you're welcome to join us over there.
You want to come over to my channel?
Sure. I can jump on for about 10-15 minutes, I think.
Okay, go ahead over there.
I want to challenge everybody before we go to please consider joining den.social. It's free. You can join with just an email. You don't have to dox yourself. You can create a brand new email that's just for den.social, and you can go and join the Mighty Lair. That's also free. And if you post a comment below, tell me what your thoughts are on this idea of meritocracy, and also go into the article and where he is breaking down all these different types of that was in the other article.
So it's okay. It's the link at the bottom of this one.
The link at the bottom of this one. Go read that one, and then come back and tell me which number you would like to see our government or our country end up using or becoming. What form of political system, I guess, would be a good word.
The ranking of centralized versus decentralized. How's that?
Yeah. So give me your number on that, and I'll send you a lot, which is a layer ownership token, which allows you to be able to vote and participate in things on the Mighty platform. So on the Mighty Lair. So there's an opportunity for all of us there. Thanks again. I really
appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, enjoy your perspective on this, and it gives me a lot to chew on and look for solutions. So I love that there's people building solutions out there. Thanks. So we'll see you guys over on Satoshi Sean's YouTube channel right after this.